The first thing that struck me upon my arrival at the Auschwitz I and Auschwitz-Birkenau camps was their sheer size. When you learn about the Holocaust in school, you cannot imagine the scale of the atrocity and the numbers housed in these camps. But when you stand at their gates and all you can see are rows and rows of buildings where the prisoners stayed, you begin to imagine just how many victims were persecuted. Furthermore, it is one thing to understand the scale of the Holocaust, but it is also imperative to try and imagine what it must have been like for those who stayed in these camps. I was given the opportunity to listen to Stephen Frank's testimony of his experiences in a concentration camp, and he shone a light on the hardships of these camps, as well as telling us a story of how he grew tomatoes on the windowsill of where he stayed. His story allowed me to humanise the victims of this horrific genocide and understand that all victims had their own stories and journeys. Although the Holocaust took place over 75 years ago, genocides are still taking place today. For example, right now, 200,000 Rohingya Muslims, who are a Muslim minority group in Myanmar, have been forced to flee to Bangladesh in fear because the state does not recognise them as citizens and they were being persecuted. This example is unfortunately not the only genocide in the 21st century. 2020 brought to light further the persecution of the Uyghur Muslims in China, who have undergone re-education, forced labour and forced sterilisation. Moreover, the Darfur genocide in Sudan, which began in 2003, is still ongoing 18 years later, with nearly 500,000 deaths and over 3 million victims. We all have a responsibility to work for a safer, better future for everyone, and everybody can step up and use their talents to tackle prejudice, discrimination and intolerance whenever we encounter them. We can be the light in the darkness.
The Holocaust happened 75 years ago, but still holds significant relevance to us in many ways. Even now, in the 21st century, Genocides are happening, and many cultures and ethnicities are being destroyed. For instance, the Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar are not recognised by the state as citizens, and so have limited rights on who they can marry, how many children they can have, and their work and travel. Even more recently, in 2020, we have been made aware that Uyghur Muslims are being detained in labour camps in China. Uyghur Muslim women are being forcibly sterilised, and the whole ethnic group is being treated inhumanely. This is why we need to remember the Holocaust. With the Holocaust survivors getting older and older, many now dying from old age, one day there will no longer be any survivors to tell us their testimonies and their stories. We can't forget that only 75 years ago, one human was able to hurt another so terribly, and that allowing such hatred to prevail caused one of the greatest crimes against humanity. Last March, I had the opportunity to visit Auschwitz. There was a room with piles of human hair which had been shaved off of the prisoners' heads. It shocked me beyond words. So many people, and their hair was the only remain of them. Another place that struck me very much was the Book of Names in Auschwitz I. The book had around 4.2 million names of the Jews that perished in the Holocaust. What I found horrifying was the fact that 2 million names are still missing. The book had been just as long as the actual room, and the pages were huge. It made me think that we would never be able to comprehend such a large number. When I was on the plane back to England, all the emotions and things I learned had started to hit me. I realised that I had been able to come home, but those people never had, which had made me feel very emotional on my way back home. We say the statistics 6 million so often when talking of the Holocaust in school, but we don't often think that every single one of these 6 million had a life, a family, a home, just like us, which had been stolen away from them. Despite that, there were several people that helped the Jews during the Holocaust and hid them in their homes, helped them to escape to safer countries, and gave them food, even though they themselves could have gotten in trouble. I think they were the light in the darkness. There was still so much intolerance, hatred, and darkness in our world. Extremist groups have been promoting hate speeches and hateful, dangerous ideals. Any form of intolerance and violence mirrors that of the Holocaust, which means that we need to be wary. We can't allow for a genocide such as this to happen again. In that way, I feel that all of us could also be a light in the darkness and raise awareness and try our hardest and help as much as we can.